Saving people isn't the same as serving people. If you're like me, you've probably had this twisted at some point and have taken on the responsibility of saving people. Whether it's your clients, your family, your friends, your loved ones, your audience, you've somehow picked up this habit of overextending yourself to save them. And this habit is now negatively impacting your well-being. In this edition of Thursday's Thought, I share my story around why I used to take on other people's pain as my own, the difference between saving people and serving people, and why your pain is your responsibility. Now, if you've been seeking ways to connect deeper with me, listen up. I am looking for conscious thought leaders who are seeking to be part of a community of like minds in 2020. Thought leaders who are using their platforms for purpose and are ready to create a magnetic movement around their message. If that's you, I invite you to apply to become one of the 10 leaders in the Thought Leader Collective. Head to rubyfremon.com/TLC and apply today. Enrollment closes in November. The links will be in the show notes. Now, if you dig this podcast, please stay in the loop by signing up for my weekly emails. Sign up today at rubyfremon.com/subscribe. And whether you are a loyal thought leader or a brand new listener, please take a moment to download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. Let's see if I can hit over 100 ratings and reviews this year. I would love, love, love your help in making that happen. Now it is time to learn the difference between saving people and serving people. Hey, thought leaders, and welcome back to another edition of Thursday's Thought on today's Thought Leader. So if you are a leader like me, and you show up powerfully for your clients, for your audience, for your community, you are in service, you love to serve, and in fact, selfless service is something that you absolutely love, then you're probably going to resonate with this episode. So let's start with a little backstory. If you've been listening for a while, you know that my background is Punjabi. I am Punjabi, I'm Sikh, origins in India. And in the Sikh religion, the entire religion is based on a concept called seva. Now, you might have heard of this concept before because a lot of people are now using this word in our space. But seva, what that means is selfless service. So if you've ever visited a Sikh temple, you know that there is always food being served. It doesn't matter who you are, what your religious background is, you will be served food in a Sikh temple. You just will, because we believe in selfless service for everyone. And growing up, I was raised with this belief. We would go to the temple as a family and we would work in the kitchen to do seva. I would often do the dishes. My mom would help cook. My brothers would do the dishes with me. My dad would serve. We would do this, and this was our way of giving back. This was our way of serving from a place of love, of serving without expectation to receive anything in return, but just to serve, to selflessly serve. And so I've been raised with this this belief that selfless service is really part of my foundation. And I'll be honest, I still believe this. I still believe in seva. I still believe in the power of seva. And I believe that if every single person on this planet believed in seva, the world would be a much better place to serve without expectation, to serve strictly from a place of love, to give. However, somewhere down the line, this shifted into a belief that sounded like this. In order to help people, I must take on their pain. Their pain must become my pain. Now, that might sound a little fucked up when you first hear it, but really listen to what I'm saying. In order to help them, I must take on their pain. Because if there's something I've learned from working with hundreds of leaders as their coach and as their mentor, is that many leaders actually have some form of this belief ingrained in their system. They feel that in order to really help, they must have this like extreme sense of empathy. They must take on their pain. They must help carry the burden with them or carry the burden for them. Now, the reason that I adopted this belief, and I know this because of the years I've devoted to my own inner work and my inner growth. The reason I adopted this belief is really just witnessing my mom. My mom is this 5'2" version of me, or better yet, I'm a 5'9" version of my mom. But she's this tiny little thing, the most loving individual you'll ever meet. She's such a nurturer. She's such a caretaker. And, food is love for her. In our culture, in our Indian culture, food is love. If you've ever been to an Indian wedding, you know what I mean. There's many courses of food. We eat until like 11 p.m. But food is love. And um, my entire upbringing, I witnessed my mom giving selflessly to others, giving selflessly to God, to our community, and giving selflessly to others in our family, friends. If someone's in trouble, they know to call my mom. My mom is also like the baby whisperer in our family. I have like 5 aunts, and she's the baby whisperer. Everyone goes to my mom for everything. And again, she's like this 5'2" little woman who would take it. And I always saw her with a smile on her face, with her arms wide open, with an abundance of love to give. Um, and that's what I witnessed my entire life. And so I started to adopt that same thing. Like, my mom wouldn't go in there and hold space. She would go in there and dive into their pain with them. Their pain became her pain, but she'd slap a smile on her face and carry it. But it definitely impacted her. It was very obvious in a lot of her actions and the way that she would communicate about it afterwards. And, these are all things that I uncovered now as an adult. But as a child, all I'm seeing is like, my mom is saving these people. My mom is helping these people. Look at how strong my mom is. And I started to show up in that way for people, for my friends, for people in my life. Like, I can help anyone. I can take on all their pain and still smile. I can carry the weight that's on their shoulders on my shoulders and still smile and be that person that everyone goes to. And, behind the scenes, it's not that simple. When you feel as though, when you have a belief ingrained in you that is telling you that you have to take on other people's pain in order to really support them and to serve them, it will chip away at you. And if it doesn't manifest emotionally, it'll manifest spiritually. If it doesn't manifest spiritually, it'll manifest physically. And to be honest, it manifested physically for me in my 20s, in my early 20s. Just taking on a lot of family members' pain and trauma and holding it inside my physical vessel. And the pain manifested in physical pain. I had very severe IBS, PTSD, fibromyalgia, depression, anxiety. I mean, there was so much physical pain at one point in my early 20s that I couldn't get out of bed. The fibromyalgia was so horrific. And what I also noticed was the IBS, or what doctors have been calling IBS for me since I was about 22 years old. It's been a 16-year battle with IBS that has finally coming to this sense of closure, because what I've realized is that it's not IBS. I mean, it came up at a point in my life when I went through some very severe trauma, And that's when it was ignited. That's also when I started to what's the right word? Not be mindful of my boundaries. I started to let people walk all over me, family members, friends. Like, I really lost sight of who I was, and I would do anything and everything to please others. So there were no boundaries in place. And what I've now discovered through, many, many plant ceremonies, 11 total so far, heading to Peru very soon to sit in Dieta with the Shipibo tribe. So I'm excited about that. But the plants have shown me so much in the way in which I show up for others. In my second ceremony with ayahuasca, I remember dropping in, and the entire night felt like a nightmare that was never ending. Like, it felt like I was in this nightmare for years. And the nightmare was this vision. Like, it was like I was sitting in front of a movie screen, and a movie was playing, kind of like the old school film. And in that movie, it was me, and it was my family members. Sometimes it would be my mom, sometimes it would be my brother, and I'd be there, and they'd be in front of me telling me all the shit that they were going through. And it would manifest as like this backpack that I started to carry. And I would have a smile on my face. And then all of a sudden, the backpack would start to crush me. And then the person would disappear, and I'd be crying and in pain. And then the movie would replay again. And it was like my mom in front of me, and her telling me what she's going through, and then me putting this heavy backpack on and then crushing in pain. And it just kept replaying that. And what that showed me is how I really do take on other people's burdens as my burdens, because I want to save them. I want to make them feel better. I want to take away their pain. I'd rather live their pain than see them in pain and see them suffer. Let me suffer. And I know that there are people, I know that there's some of you listening that can really resonate with this, or someone who also has these types of beliefs. But the pain can manifest in many different ways. And what you need to understand is, well, number one, like, your pain is your responsibility. And in saying that, you have to understand what's actually causing this pain. In order to really serve people, you don't need to take on their pain. That's their responsibility. You just have to hold space, right? Like, you don't have to take on other people's shit in order to help them. You don't have to save them. That's not your responsibility. That is theirs, right? You don't have to, as a leader, you don't have to drag people, like pull them through the fucking mud and dirt to save them. No, that's enabling them. What you need to do is really just hold space for them. And holding space, what that looks like is, like, imagine opening the door to your house and letting someone in and having them sit on the couch and having them share, and you're sitting and listening. That is holding space, right? But you're not going to drag them into your house, drag them onto your couch, and then push them into sharing what's going on. No, that's not holding space. You also don't have to take on their shit as your shit. Your responsibility as a leader is to serve them. And this is what I've learned, and this is how I've started to shift that inner paradigm within myself, is like, as a leader, as a coach, as a mentor, I'm not here to drag you through the mud. I'm here to fucking serve you. And in serving you, that often means that I'm dishing out the hard truths that you're not comfortable hearing. So that doesn't mean I'm going to carry your shit for you anymore. This means that I'm going to shed light on your blind spots. That is how we can really, truly serve people. This also means that when you're in a position of true service, you get to honor your boundaries. And that starts by understanding what boundaries need to be put into place. For me, in healing all of this, like if you've been listening to the podcast, from a few episodes ago, like I've been dealing with a lot of stuff that has come to the surface over the last about 16 months that I really believe has come to the surface for me to finally deal with. And a lot of it has been the physical and the mental and the emotional pain. And since I've tried everything else, like literally been at this for over, I would say like 18 years of trying to heal. Plant medicine has been what's worked for me. And it's been a true devotion to my health. And so the boundary became, I need to honor my needs and my health. So if something is going to get in the way of my health or my needs, then it's a no. So for this past year, that meant going home less. I used to go back home to Vancouver to visit my family maybe like 3-4 times a year after I moved to LA. Literally anytime a family member was in distress, my brother was going through something, I immediately got on the next plane and went to Vancouver. My mom's in the hospital again, immediately on the next plane, I'm in Vancouver. Something's going on with my mom again, immediately I'm on the plane into Vancouver. Like I would always just be that person, that daughter, that sister, that friend that was on the fucking next plane to go save them. And in doing so, I was making myself more and more sick. And so over the past 18 months, I've been going home less because that is a boundary that I've created. I need to heal first and get to a place where I can be around you without taking on your shit. And I've brought that into my friendships too. And that's been tough, let me tell you, because not everyone shows up the way you show up. And quite frankly, I like the way I support my friends. And I've noticed that this pattern goes into friendships too. Someone texts me and they're having like a breakdown or a meltdown. It doesn't matter what I'm doing or what's going on in my life. I will drop everything and answer it right away. It doesn't matter what's going on. I could be in distress at that moment and I don't care. And so I've just been making these shifts of like really communicating, you know what, I'm actually not in a space where I can hold space for you. I need space held for me. But I'd be happy to talk about this in a few days. And so it's been a lot of that, a lot of communicating my boundaries. And I shit you not, my IBS has been dissipating. I don't have the constant pain anymore. When we take on other people's shit, when we take on other people's pain, it manifests as real physical pain in our systems. And like I said, like you don't have to save people. That's not your responsibility. Your responsibility as a leader is to serve them. Don't take on their shit, whether it's your clients, your family members, your friends, like don't take on their shit. And don't take their shit, right? Don't put up with their shit and don't get caught up in their shit. But when it comes to your shit, your pain, your wounds, your trauma, that is your responsibility. Just like this past, 18 months where I owned, like I really took full ownership for the pain that I've been experiencing for fucking years of my life. And I took full responsibility to heal that. It doesn't matter who triggered the trauma that triggered all this pain. That doesn't matter. What matters is the pain is now in my system and I get to heal that. See, if your pain comes from another person's actions or your trauma comes from a lineage of trauma, that's been in your family, that's not your responsibility. But healing that pain that is present in your system is. Healing that pain is your responsibility. So if you are, and I'm assuming you are because you're listening to this podcast, if you are in a position of leadership, if you're serving people, remember that service doesn't mean taking on other people's pain. It also doesn't mean that you're going to save your clients. I mean, I have had a handful of clients that I haven't been able to like fully support them in creating their vision, because I can only take them as far as they're willing to go. I'm not going to drag them through and do the fucking work for them. That's enabling them. That's not my responsibility. Their pain is not my responsibility. Your pain is your responsibility. My pain is my responsibility. And it doesn't matter where the pain comes from or who triggers that pain. It's now present in your system, and that is your responsibility. Your responsibility to heal it. And when you're serving your clients, when you're serving your audience, when you're serving your community, your family, your friends, the people in your life, know that the best way that you can serve them is simply by holding space for them, for their growth, for their opportunities, for their expansion, and not pulling them through it, but instead allowing them the grace to figure it out, to do the fucking work required to heal their own pain. I really hope that this message served you in some way. Thank you so much for joining me for another edition of Thursday's Thought on Today's Thought Leader, where I am challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you are a thought leader and you are seeking to expand your life, your vision, your business, your impact, alongside a powerful collective of leaders in 2020, head to rubyfremon.com/TLC to learn more about the Thought Leader Collective. That link and more will be in the show notes. And then if you dig this podcast, please, please, please download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. I would love to reach over 100 ratings and reviews, so please do me a favor and do that now. And then if you want to stay in the loop, please sign up for my weekly emails, and you can sign up at rubyfremon.com/subscribe. If you have any questions about today's episode, or you want to share an experience or share an insight, or just want to say what's up, please reach out to me on social media. My handle is @IamRuby. Now, make sure you check back on Monday for a new episode of Today's Thought Leader featuring the crystal expert and co-founder of Energy Muse, Heather Askinosie. If you want a deep dive into the science behind crystals, yes, science, this episode is a must listen. Thank you so much, thought leaders, and I will be back on Monday.